Oh, one guy,
Right, my
one
face.
guy did.
I guess I need to get my hammer out.
So this is another case.
Yes.
Okay, all right, we're on. Gentlemen and ladies, we're on. Good evening, everyone. This is the planning board meeting for June 2nd. First item on the agenda is a conditional use permit application for, do we have the application
I don't have it.
for the camp renovation?
Yes, the red envelope.
You got it last,
Oh, we got it last week, right.
oh, that one, okay, all right, you're right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what? I took it out of my
I got it
bag,
right
because
there.
my bag was too heavy.
Okay. So is Mr. Crawford here?
Follow along.
If you'd like to go to the mic there. And basically how this works is tonight it's just accepting your application for, I believe you're going to renovate. Well, actually, what you're going to do is, if you would please, give us a rundown of what it is you want to do. We will accept your application tonight, and then we'll hold a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight. And our secretary, who's not here tonight, but she will send out notices. You have all your abutters listed here,
Yes, we
and
do.
they will all get notices. Sometimes people show, sometimes they don't. We never know until the night of the hearing. But anyway, the public hearing would be, whatever 2 weeks is. It's what's 2 weeks? 16th, 17th, something like that.
16th, I believe.
16th, yeah. Wait a minute, I have my calendar right here.
It's the 16th. Yeah.
Yes, it is the 16th. So the public hearing would be at 7 o'clock on the 16th. And also, what we do is set up a site walk
Sure.
in a day that's convenient for everybody and you to go out and look at the lots, you know, see where it sits on the shore, et cetera, and what you plan to do. So if you want to give us an overview right now of what it is you plan to do, that would be
Sure.
great.
Certainly. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time tonight. My name's Christopher Crawford. My wife Kelly is here with me, and the good friends, the Begans, are here also, and actually, his neighbor Gary Fullerton's here.
Gary?
We bought the camp at 5 Apache Lane about a year ago, and Craig was kind enough to meet with us before we actually bought it, and then he came out subsequently afterwards. The condition of the building is really it's not in great shape, so it's logical based on what Craig and just what we see that it's really not serviceable in the state that it's in, and it's really not practical to take and rebuild it.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're seeking a permit to tear down the old camp and to rebuild another house camp there on that lot.
Would it be for year-round residents or just summer use?
It would, our intent is to use it for summer, but we would like to build a year-round house there.
Okay.
So that way it's for any resale in the future, or, you know, just for the logical, having a foundation and septic system and a well and everything, with the expense of it, it makes sense to create a year-round residence. We've, as you can see by the packet that we've given you, lot 40 and 41 are, it's a non-conforming lot. It's, the rough size is approximately 150 by 50, and it's it's a non-conforming lot. I've given you a little bit of background on myself in this packet, and I've tried to provide you with everything as far as the ownership, copies of the deeds, a little bit of background as to how we came to buy the lot. Basically, we were aware of it because of our good friends Bob and Annie Deegan, and we've had Sebago Technics survey the lot, and they've mapped out everything. I did bring a blown up, everyone has on the last page of that packet, you have a small, I think it's a 16 by 20 copy of the survey. I did bring a full-size survey with the existing camps on here, and then the position of the intended future camp house
Okay,
with a single-car garage.
yep,
We've tried to take and, we gave you 40 pages, we tried to staple it. Staples didn't even have a stapler big enough for us to staple it, so that's why it's not put together with a staple, but we've numbered every page that we've given you.
okay,
The intent is to tear that building down. We have sought out a permit by rule through the DEP, so we've notified there's 40 abutters that were within 1,000 feet of the property, and we've notified them all. We got one letter back and we resent it, and so.
but anyway, they would still get a notice from.
Absolutely, no, I understand that. We also subsequently have heard back from the DEP that they have accepted it, and I did bring, and I'll give you, there's nine copies of that here, of the acceptance letter from the DEP. The design of the house is basically a raised, it's just a ranch that has a daylight basement under it. There's a copy, a picture of it, through the drawings that Hammond Lumber did for us.
Okay.
And there's pictures of the old existing structure.
Yeah, we still-
There's quite a large section on the tree removal. I've met with two tree removal people, and, you know, Craig was over there with us and looked at it. We met with Jeffrey Kalinich on the 28th of January. It was a cold day when Craig was out there with us, and there's a lot of dead trees on that lot. Both of the tree people that I talked with said there's so many dead trees on this lot that we probably, before they just started cutting, you know, if you give me approval, we would like to take and actually tag them with Craig so that each one could be seen, so that there's no issue with what really falls into it. 'Cause they estimate there's between 40 and 50%
Of dead trees?
Yeah. on that
Really?
lot.
Wow, that's,
And so anyway, we've created a revegetation plan. We've addressed the soil conditions out there. We've done a sheet with the impervious area. Right now, it's approximately 27% of that lot is impervious. We propose to bring it down to approximately 21%. The DEP, the desire is to have it at 20%. It's really almost factually impossible to do that and still have a driveway. Currently, the driveway goes up to these camps, so you could actually step out, bring your groceries in the house. We'd like to still be able to do that. We cited a couple different reasons that we have. One of the issues that we have, and it's in this packet, is my wife's health condition. She has a muscular disease that's an autoimmune. Right now, she's functioning great. 3 years ago, she could hardly walk. So,
that's good to do.
so we would like to,
Functioning.
just for the ability to take and bring an ambulance in if we ever need to do that, be able to drive up to the door. We've given you a chart with all the impervious surfaces. There's a drawing, as I said, from the house that we propose to put in. In the impervious section that we've done, there's measurements that include what's there, along with what the proposal will be after the build. We're staying within the 1,500-foot requirements after going back beyond 75 feet. And the only thing that we're asking for a variance on where the position of the well is with regard to the septic system, because it's really impossible for us to get 100 feet away from it.
The planning board can't grant variances. That's a Board of Appeals issue.
Okay. For the well and septic?
That's either through me or through the state.
Donna's not here, but I'll take care of it.
Yeah. This one.
Yeah, and I did note in here, and I asked Craig when we brought this packet over and dropped it off, we asked for a variance on the 20% impervious to 21%. We're reducing, we propose we're gonna reduce it by 6%. Right now, it's at 27% calculations, based on the lot size and what they gave us for square footage of the lot through the survey at Sebago Technics. We propose to put a small garage in. I would intend to be the general contractor myself, hiring people that are licensed and insured to do the project. I've had some background in this. I acknowledge it in here. I've owned a lot of property. I had property in Portland that was in the historical district, so I'm familiar with trying to work through rules and regulations.
Okay.
'Cause it's,
The only thing that I'm hearing right now that you might need to attend to prior to our approval would be getting the variances from the Board of Appeals. The planning board cannot grant variances.
The only appeal is for this, right here.
Yeah, and just, I mean, it's,
Well, this is a variance through either me or the state. This isn't through.
It is, okay.
There's, the variance for the well to be closer to the beach gardens. We didn't have read it all yet.
And what
Yeah.
about the impervious surface issue?
He's reducing that.
Yeah, so you're reducing that. So that's-
Reducing it
Yep.
from 27 to 21, so it's going to
Yeah.
get better, not worse.
Right, exactly, but does the state have an absolute requirement for the impervious? Did you say that they had 20% they wanted?
that's what they request. It's
Oh, it
not.
isn't a
It
requirement?
isn't.
Okay,
That's what
okay.
they request for the rules.
Okay.
And it's really impossible with the length of the driveway.
Okay, understand.
But, so, in reading through your documentation, it appeared that that would be another area that Craig would be able to take and
Okay.
act upon.
I'm not seeing the well on, whereabouts is the well?
It's positioned right down close to, positioned right,
I'm not seeing it for whatever reason.
right down.
I'm looking at
this corner.
this is the.
It's
old
down in the
UK.
corner, he said.
It's right.
Oh, wait a
Is it
minute.
here?
Down there.
Oh, I see, it's up by the road, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you.
And part of the reason that, when we met
That's
with that-
upgrade too,
What's that?
that's upgrade, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no well on that property at this point.
Okay.
And I was concerned, with drilling or using a point-driven well down below. Gary indicated that at one point his dad
Guys,
had.
please, let's listen to what the gentleman's saying.
And they had some issues with their water quality, so.
Okay,
yeah. So you're proposing a drill well?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you.
okay, does anyone from the board have any questions?
That's the only one I had.
All right, so I think,
Just accepting the applications.
yes, yeah, and setting up a site walk. So, are you available, what times are you not available for a site
I'm
walk?
pretty flexible. Tomorrow's about the only day. I've got a brother that's in Eastern
Okay.
Maine Medical Center, and I'm going up to see
Okay.
him tomorrow.
So, when would be a good day that people would want to do the site walk? It's gonna be pretty sunny. Saturday's rainy, so I don't think we wanna do it
I
Saturday.
can do Tuesday, Thursday, or the weekend. I can't do Monday, Wednesday, or
Okay,
Friday.
how about Thursday at 3 o'clock?
This Thursday?
This Thursday, does that
I
work?
can't, but that's okay. I don't need to.
That's, what day, that's the 12th?
No, Thursday, this Thursday would be the 5th.
It's supposed to be 90 that day, I think.
What time?
At 3, Craig likes to do 3:30.
Doctor's appointment.
Okay, so that's two people.
Let me remind you.
And so we're not gonna have a quorum that day, doesn't work.
No, I can't be there.
So,
It's supposed to be 90
But
degrees
my
on
doctor's
Thursday.
appointment is at 3, so
yeah, yeah.
it's gonna get close.
I can do
What,
one or two. I can't do three.
I'm good for 1 or 2.
can, 1
1 o'clock would be
o'clock?
good,
Could you do 1 o'clock?
I can
No,
do
wait a
one.
minute.
Is one
Thursday.
okay
I
with you,
can't do
Bob?
Thursday.
You can't
Oh,
do Thursday?
okay.
I thought you said Thursday was the day you could.
Except this Thursday.
Oh.
I can do Tuesdays or Thursdays or weekends, except this Thursday.
How
Um,
about the following Tuesday?
That'd work.
Yeah, that would work.
The following Tuesday would be the
10.
the
Yeah.
10th.
It's election
Would that
day.
work for you?
Sure. Make it work.
Are you busy with election day, Joyce?
I don't know at this point, I haven't been asked, so it's not, doesn't.
This isn't even
Uh,
my phone.
usually-
No wonder I can't open it.
I'm gonna put it on.
Darrell, would Tuesday, the 10th be okay for you? Tuesday, the 10th for the sidewalk?
That'll work.
At what time? 2 o'clock?
I'm flexible that day.
Does 2 work for you?
Yep.
2 o'clock work? Would 2 o'clock be okay? So it's on 2 o'clock on the 10th at 2, and the address is what, 5 Apache Lane?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
2 p.m. June 10th.
All righty, so we will see you there
Okay,
with the whole crew.
great.
And they don't usually take that long, max a half an hour,
Okay.
you know, but depends how many questions are asked and whatnot.
Sure.
Usually there aren't any public there. Sometimes someone will show, but not as a general rule. And you're welcome to have whoever you want there as well. If you want Gary to be there or whoever, it's fine.
Sure.
It's an open situation.
Yeah.
As far as people coming, okay?
Okay, thank you.
And then, so if you would just put 7 o'clock on the 16th on your calendars for the public hearing, in addition to that 10th, that would be fine.
Okay,
Thank you very much for coming in, we appreciate it.
thank you.
No, right. So the next item would be to have a motion to accept,
I make a motion to accept the application as presented.
is there a second to the motion to accept Mr. Crawford's application?
I'll second it.
Victoria seconded, all in favor? Okay, we're all set. Thank you for coming in. That one, okay.
Do you want me to leave this large copy of the, just bring it to
Craig,
the site?
Craig, do you have a need for that?
The large?
Do you have a need for that? Do you want it for your file?
Yeah, I have this one here.
Why don't you just bring that with you, so you
Sure.
can.
Absolutely.
Point at it
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Great.
Because that's basically everything that's on these 2 pages.
Yeah, and there's a smaller copy of it's the last page. of it.
Yeah, we saw that, yeah.
Okay.
That's a double size.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Okay, the next item is for Ray Marshall and the representative from Sebago Technics to come.
Oh, I thought I gave you, oh, okay.
Could I have, I know both your names, Ray and it's Andy, right? Jim, I'm sorry, Jim Seymour.
Not Jim,
You know, one of the things, Donna, if you're listening to us, yes, sir. Yes, yeah, Craig. You know what I need from you? Our secretary is unable to attend tonight. Could I have the names of the people that were here? There's yourself,
Sure, my wife Kelly.
Kelly?
Yes. Robert Andy Hughes and Robert Andy.
How do you spell their last name? Deagan. And Gary Fullerton, yeah? Okay, just for the record, Fred. Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Not a problem.
I think I looked at it.
Yep.
I brought the wrong one. If I need to look, I'll.
It's the,
Actually,
oh, okay,
I have 2 of them here.
okay. So here's one of these of the DEP permit. And Donna, I have one here for you. Yeah, that's from the other people. Okay, Mr. Seymour, you're on.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is Jim Seymour, project manager and civil engineer from Sebago Technics, representing Ray Marshall this evening for the Blue Lemon Campground development. I understand that at Ray's last meeting, you had some questions for me in particular with regards to utilities and access to each of the RV sites.
You know, one of the things that we discussed with Ray is, yeah, they can't, in my mind, and I think we might have agreed, they're not RVs. An RV is I've looked up the definition, it's a wheeled vehicle that someone drives. What he wants to put there, from our understanding, is pre-built cabins, or whatever you want to call them. They're not RVs.
They actually are, they're on wheels. He has pictures this evening to share with you.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Great. I had done this a year ago. Here's some, they're all under. I wouldn't bring anything in, not under.
So these, they look like tiny houses.
They're all tiny.
But they're on an RV chassis.
Yep. Same hookups as you would with a.
Here, I'm going to pass these around.
Bathroom, kitchen,
There is.
There is.
There is a bathroom kitchen. I misspoke last time.
No, there is.
Well, we've got a different situation here.
Changes
If
everything.
these things are tiny houses,
They're not tiny homes, they're an RV that look like a tiny home.
I would have to check into that, to be very honest with you. One of the concerns is that if these fall under the state, I've seen tiny homes that have been wheeled on houses too, but the state, I think what we're getting at is we don't want a subdivision down there.
Nope, we don't either.
And I think that might be what this is leading to.
I disagree, but I appreciate your opinion.
And,
And we're in agreement. We're in agreement.
okay, you can,
We don't want to subdivision.
all right, so we'll let you go forward with what you're
Okay,
going to
thank
say.
you. Again, Jim Seymour with Sebago Technics. I don't know exactly what you covered at the last meeting, but I'll just quickly go through. We have received our main DEP approvals for this project
Right,
for
I think we said that
stormwater,
last time.
for freshwater wetland impact. And what we did is when we designed the site, we followed the Department of Health and Human Resources rules and regulations for campgrounds. So with that said, what I've done here on this plan this evening is outlined in orange. Each one of these sites will have its own parking at the site itself. I know that was a question at your last meeting. So each one of these has its own driveway and its own location per the state regulations for a driveway. Along with that, per the campground requirements, comes a picnic table and a fire pit. Those are all required by the state rules. As far as the overflow parking lot, which is located up in here, we have shown the plan now to show lights up there, but we've hardwired those in. What we've done with everything else is we've put a 6x6 post at each driveway, which will locate the actual site itself, so it has a number, just like it would a road address. And within that, it has a plug so that they can plug in the RV. And then also on top of that, there'll be a small solar light so that if we lit up, the driveways will be lit up to identify each location with a small solar light just shining down the driveway. The parking lot will be hardwired with lights. We're going to go with a flathead, low cutoff, so there's no light pollution or anything. We've planned 3 on each side of that parking lot, and the reason we hardwired them is we had more controls over the dimming and the timers on those lights. So off-season, shut off. During the evening, what I would suggest is that he just dim those down after a certain quiet time. Just dim those lights down for security purposes, but during the rest of the time, they would be bright until maybe 9 or 10 o'clock, something like that. Then they would dim down. Each of the sites has electrical service to it. All of the trailer sites have sewage connections, which would all go down to a pump station down at the bottom, down here. Pump up to the septic system and put that up near Route 11. The geographic zone sites, the reserve sites, they do not have sewer connection because they would be using the common.
You still have the 2 bathhouses.
Yes, yeah. So that kind of is just kind of a quick scenario with the utilities. They do have water service at those locations, simple portable water. And there's 2 stormwater ponds, one is located on this end of the site, those all comply with Maine stormwater standards, because we did trigger a stormwater permit. The other feature that we did add on the overall plan was if you continue down this access road past a small swath of corridor wetlands, on the other side there was a field that was once an active field. It's in the floodplain, but that would be a dedicated passive outdoor recreation area for guests to go down and do whatever they want. There would be no improvements on that because they're in the floodplain, but they could utilize the grass area down there. So,
And the accompanying ticks.
there's plenty of those, unfortunately. So that's just kind of what we've presented. I know there were some questions at the last hearing that Ray presented. Here to answer any questions. I'll let Ray answer anything about the RVs, but if it's something about the site, I'll be more than happy to.
Well, one of the things that comes to my mind immediately is that this presentation is a bit different from what Ray spoke of last time.
Okay.
In that the last time when you were here, you mentioned having, that you were going to build these, I'll use your term, RV, that in your barn there or something, you were going to use repurposed materials. What you're showing us here is an entirely different picture. In fact, is that what you're going to do?
Okay, these
That
pictures,
looks like a heck of a lot more expensive situation than what you had described to us before that you were going to do. Because previously you said there was no kitchen and there was no bathroom. So that means each site has to have its own septic system. Or you have a pump, a communal, okay, that would have to pass Craig's. So is this in fact what your final plan is?
Okay, I hope to have a mix, okay? Some things that are prefabbed and built kind of takes the main touch off of things. If I had my way, I'd build all the venues myself, but there's no way that's going to be realistic. It would probably take years. I hope to give an accurate representation. If I can source material here from Maine, and I can build and buy a chassis and build a venue that somebody would know that was repurposed material from here, I think that would be the highlight of the campground. And I would love to do that. Whether it's
I didn't hear that.
okay, that's all right. Ideally, what I would like to do with at least one of the venues, possibly more, is to repurpose material from Maine here, so that it could be like a conversation piece. Okay, so-and-so was tearing down their barn and they had hand-hewn beams. I would love to put my hands on those beams. I'd love to take some of the tin off the roof. None of this has to be energy efficient because it's only seasonal. So I would love to be able to find and source some Maine, state of Maine products and make at least one venue. If I seen over time, let's say hypothetically I was be able to create one venue, and let's say that one was the one that was the most sought after. Something else that I could buy from a manufacturer on wheels that was all done from beginning to end, and I just buy it and I wheel it in and put it on a pad. That's not really who I am, but realistically, that's what I'm going to have to do, because to build 17 tiny homes on chassis in some efficient time manner is not realistic. Do I have a dream of building at least one, outsourcing Maine materials? Yes, I do. If I see that one that I built with hopefully guys in the community, if everybody kept wanting to rent that one, would I naturally want to buy another one and possibly substitute another venue that I bought from a manufacturer, give it away to somebody or get rid of it and bring another source material from Maine venue in? That's what I would love to do. Ideally, I would love to have 17 of them, but I don't think it's realistic.
So how ideally would you have these constructed and where if you were using repurposed material?
I have a barn right there
Right.
that's 80
But
some
who,
feet long.
right, but who's going to do it?
That would be me. I'm a contractor with insurance, and I wear every hat there is. It doesn't matter what it is. And obviously, if I was building one, I would have to get a hold of Craig from the very beginning. I'd have to get my framing inspection, and every inspection therefore. If he said, Ray, you're going to have a licensed electrician, of course, no problem. He'll come in, he'll pull a permit. He will be the guy that's in charge of the wiring. If he says, Ray, because it's your home, you're going to own it, because some villages I work with, some towns I work with, I'm able to do the electrical. Then I hire a company called MDIA, Middle Department Inspection Agency. They come in, they inspect my work. I'm not required to be licensed, but if your town ordinances required that I had to have a licensed electrician, I've dealt with that before too.
Well, one of my concerns, and I think it may be shared.
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
Down in,
Town is that where you can do your own wiring?
Albany, New York.
No,
Yeah, absolutely.
as
Who-
the owner, as the owner.
As the owner, I have a
Not as a
5-unit.
contractor.
No, it's okay. I have a 5-unit building in Hoosick Falls, New York. I'm able to do the electrical. They have 2 or 3 different inspection agencies that you're allowed to hire. They come in, they do the inspection, they sign off on it. Now you can call National Grid, which is the power company
Even for
there.
commercial work?
I don't know that. I don't know that. But I will answer it without even having to look into it, yes. Because that town does not have an electrical inspector. So they have a third party for that town. Sovereignty is one, Middle Department Inspection Agency is another one. Whether I've done work in Amsterdam or Hoosick Falls or Albany,
Yeah, but
Albany, New York,
you're talking about an
yeah,
inspector,
yeah, but,
you're talking about doing your own wiring, that's
Yeah.
2 different things.
no, I'm saying when I've done the electrical work, because I've been allowed to, I've had to hire a third-party company to come in and inspect it.
okay,
And-
that would be through Craig, that you
Of course.
would do that.
No, this is what I'm trying to explain.
But you
If-
can't do that in Maine. You can't do that in Maine.
that's fine, that's fine. I'm saying if Craig required
Yeah.
that the person who did the
Yeah,
electrical,
okay, we've got that settled.
okay, everything would go through Craig is what I was,
One of my concerns, and perhaps some of the other board members are concerned, this is the third proposal of what it is you plan to do,
Okay.
as far as the units are concerned.
Okay.
Whatever you want to name them, and I still think that looks an awful lot like tiny houses to
If
me.
I- if I
Particularly
can. Okay.
Please hear me
Yep,
out.
yep.
Particularly since they have bathrooms and kitchens. If your intent is to use purpose materials, I would want to see a design of that
Okay.
and what it's going to look like. I am concerned about unkempt kinds of houses in that area.
Okay.
That would be totally unacceptable
Okay.
to this board. And I'm not sure what the rest of the board members feel like as far as what materials would be acceptable, what the outside design would look like.
Okay.
We are determined that this is not going to turn into an unkempt
Understood.
campground out there.
Understood. Okay.
And I will look further into whether those are really qualify as tiny houses, because if they do,
Okay.
to me, this can be a setup for a subdivision, which is another whole bale of wax.
Okay. Whenever you want me to
Yeah.
speak, I will.
No, I don't think it makes much difference what they look like, sitting on wheels. To move a camper either on wheels.
Well,
I think
but
for the purposes here, I like what you've done. I think this shows that it's thought out, it's methodical. What I have a problem with is I might do this and I might do that, and maybe I'll put some of these in, or maybe I'll buy some, might build one. I want to know what you're putting in there.
Okay.
I got to know what you're putting in there. What you've done here, I think is pretty decent.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of questions on that. But I got all kinds of red flags flying all over the place when you say that I might do this and I might do that, I might change it.
Okay.
The problem is that we watch this project morph with each meeting. It changes it before our very eyes.
Okay.
From the minute you walk in and the minute you walk out, they're 2 different projects.
Okay.
And we don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
So what I want to know is, what are you going to put in there? That's
Okay.
what I want to know.
When I can.
What about the roads?
Those are built to town standards, 20-foot wide roads, turnarounds at each terminus, so there's plenty of room for the fire department to have access to turnarounds.
They're gonna be gravel, right?
No, they're going to be gravel, provided you guys give us the variance, right?
well, but it doesn't have to, it's something the board can, the term variance gets thrown around. It's a determination we can make that
Okay.
is not a variance.
Okay. I apologize.
That's okay. And that's having them, as far as I'm concerned, having them dirt is not a problem. I don't see that as an issue.
What?
If it's just gravel, it's that
Yeah.
dust. If they put stone dust on the top of it or something like that, that's gonna keep that dust down.
Great, one of the things I was thinking was if we could do an inch or two of reclaim.
Yeah.
Better
Anything-
still.
Anything that would keep that.
Better still, yeah.
Okay, I think I interrupted you answering Bob's questions about exactly what it is you plan to do.
Okay. If I can go back to the beginning, I'll be very quick.
Can I have one more question? You plan, the infrastructure would all have to be done before you could really do anything,
Of course.
okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so to go back to the beginning, when I first came before the town, I was using the word tiny homes. When I was using the term tiny homes, it became an issue with Daryl specifically because Daryl said tiny homes have to have a foundation underneath them. I'm pretty good with remembering things, especially if they're important to me. Jim spoke up and said they do not have to have a foundation underneath them because they are on a trailer, just like a camper. At a certain point, maybe the second meeting, third meeting, we kind of joked about it and we kind of laughed and said, from now on, let's not call them tiny homes, let's call them RVs. That was Jim's suggestion from the beginning. I'm just always extremely transparent. If I'm looking for tiny homes, I'm calling them tiny homes. At one point in the second or third meeting, it was Jim's suggestion, it was also the board's suggestion, that we stop using the term tiny homes and we use the term RVs, okay? For all intents and purposes, we're going to use the term RVs. The reason being is because there is not a foundation required underneath them. That was the big discrepancy that Daryl brought to our attention, the idea of whether they needed a foundation or they did not require a foundation. Once we realized they did not require a foundation, we converted the term tiny home to RV. I've made a mistake. I keep referring to them as to what I plan on putting there. Should I use the word RV? Yes. Does it seem like it's being a little bit disingenuous? Yeah, because I'm not going to go...
I don't think we can dictate what they look like.
Okay. All I will say to you guys, every one of you, is this is, I've looked at both campers, because we have a place in Coxsackie, New York, a half an hour south from where I live. They are tasteless. They are straight up and down. They are plain Jane. They're like every other Jayco or every other thing that you've seen towed behind something. The venues that I plan on wanting to bring to this town, I'd be very happy once I pinpoint what company I'm going to deal with, what product I'm going to buy. If you guys say one of the requirements we're going to need, Ray, is that you come in here with anything that you're going to purchase that you're going to put on that campground, fine, of course. If anybody thinks that I want somebody from the panel or somebody, even a patron here, to drive by and call you guys up and say, what is that guy putting there? No. What I'm going to attempt to put there is going to be first class, top rate. I'm never going to give up on the idea that I'm going to be able to source material here from Maine and build something. And if you guys say, look, Ray, if you want to follow through with that idea, it's great, but we're going to require a print. Then we're going to
That would
require,
be-
okay, we're going to require a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber. We're going to need the print stamped by an engineer. I'm familiar with all this
Well,
stuff.
when you say a print, yes, and also, what the materials, what it's going to look like.
Stamp, yeah, I totally understand that. Somebody gets in a computer with me, they design it for me, we get an engineer to stamp it, everything. I'm so familiar with this stuff. It's all I've ever done for the last 35 years. It's not new, you're not being tight, you're not being hard, it's normal stuff. You'd want to see a print, you'd want to see a layout, you want to know the dimensions, of course. Of course. And in my defense, the way this changed is when I originally came in here, RV/tiny home, that was always the concept. At a certain point, I called Craig and I said, Craig, I have a question for you. And he said, what? I said, I don't know if I'm going to get my approvals from the state or not. That's going to be a ways down the road. Do I have to have state approval to have a tent site campground there in Limington? He said, let me look into it. He got back on the phone and said, no, you don't. I said, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with the panel, I'd like to fill out a separate application.
And we did, and you did, and we already approved the tent.
And the reason I did that was because I wanted to proof the concept for myself, letting me know that I wasn't investing in a town that at the end of the day was not going to want to see a campground, okay? So has it ever really changed? No, because as soon as I got approved for a tent site campground, I knew to follow through with the state, spend the money, get my approvals, because if they approve me for a tent site campground, naturally, they're gonna approve me for a tiny home / RV campground once I get all my approvals in place with the state. So I just disagree that it's traveled all over the place. It hasn't.
Well, it hasn't
Well,
on my,
it has, and here's my problem. I asked you specifically, I said, when I walk through the front door of one of these RVs, what am I gonna see?
Yep.
And you said, living quarters.
Right.
And I pushed a little further, what do you mean by that? Is it gonna be a kitchen? Nope, no kitchen. How about a bathroom? Nope, no bathroom. Okay, well, in my mind, that changes everything.
You're right.
So now, we're looking at a situation that's way different than what you're proposing tonight. I think what you're proposing tonight is way better, to be honest with you.
That point is perfectly true, perfectly accurate. I completely misspoke, and I explained to Jim, the first thing I have to do when I get in there is I have to explain and apologize that when they asked me if there was gonna be a kitchen or a bathroom, I said no, and I just screwed up. It's like my mind, I had a brain, you know what, I screwed that up. That was my fault, it was
Okay.
completely my
so is this the final plan?
final plan.
Okay.
Yep.
Who is going to be managing this
I am.
project?
I'm the general contractor. I picked,
But I mean, once everything is built and you're in business,
yep,
it seems to me, number one, these cabins are going to have to be clean. Somebody's going to have to be responsible for seeing that there's healthy healthy environment there. It needs an on-site manager.
Right.
Someone that, if there's an issue that people can go to, do you have that as part of your business plan?
yes, and here's what it is. Luke and his wife that are living at the farm now are managing an Airbnb that I have at the chick farm, okay? The last 2 weeks, we've been going through a bunch of different things. I've come out here twice, I've sat down with them, we've had lengthy discussions, and they've been explained that things are either gonna be run a certain way to where the people in the town are gonna not only approve it, but they're gonna be very happy with it, or I'm gonna have to make a change. What developed from me having to come out twice is I kept asking for pictures of what was being done at the farm, and I was getting some pictures that were not representative. I had to ask them to stand in a certain places if somebody was driving by. In other words, things weren't happening again the way I was saying I wanted it done, so I specifically came out here and made the drive and said, look, here's the deal. This, that, and the other thing has to happen, or else I'm gonna make a change. You guys decide whether you wanna stay here or not, that's it. When I say I'm done, I'm done. I said I'm gonna come back in a week. It's either gonna be right or it's not, and that's when we'll sit down and we'll decide what's gonna happen. Now, I am 75% happy with the way the farm looks right now. I specifically went over with Luke over this weekend and reiterated again today on the way to this meeting. What else has to be done? I'm extremely disappointed with what's happened with the farm in the past, and I had to make some I had to approach him in a different way, and I had to get his wife involved.
Well,
Where will the office be?
The office is possibly going to be in the mobile home on the chick farm.
Possibly.
Okay. I said this before. Well, here's the thing, okay? When you don't have a campground built, when you don't even have it built yet, are you specifically going to know if you're going to take one of those venues in the campground, on the campground, and dedicate that to an office? That's a possibility. That's something I've thought about over and over, because then you're right there in the thick of things. If anybody needs anything, all they do is go to number 9 and ask the person for something if they need it. That has been a thought of mine. I've mulled over it. But I also said this in the last meeting. The mobile home is so close, I feel like it could suffice. Is there a better solution? There might be a better solution. If it turns out there's a better solution,
There's nothing wrong with that home that's over there, as long as that's where it's gonna be.
Daryl, what I'm
You
trying
have to
to...
have it on the prints where the office is gonna be.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is, right now, the plan is to have it at the mobile home, okay? But if I see that something could be better, or if I see that there has to be closer detail or closer eye on the venues because of X, Y, Z potentially becoming a problem, if you want it in stone, then here's what I'm gonna tell you. It's gonna be the mobile home on the chick farm. That's gonna be the office. Okay? I won't discuss any other options with any other thing, because here's what's happening, and I'm not trying to do this. I'm frustrating people. I'm not trying to frustrate anybody. I'm gonna go with the original plan of the mobile home, and I'm not gonna deviate. That's it. Okay? And I hope that satisfies the
You
question.
can always come back and change it, but you just can't have everything up in the air.
All right, that's fair enough. I'm gonna use the mobile home as the office, and if anything changes, I'll need to come back.
Also, in the bathrooms that will be in these facilities.
Yep.
Will there be a shower, or will people be using the bathhouse showers?
There will be a full-service bathroom
With a shower and a toilet?
with a shower and a toilet and a sink.
Okay.
Doesn't that negate the necessity for two bathhouses?
No, those would be serving the dome.
The year.
the-
I feel like this.
How many domes are you gonna end up with?
8.
8, okay.
8, right. 17 RVs and 8 domes?
Then I would suggest those.
I think it's 17, I think it's 17 RVs and 8 domes, but here's what I would like to say too, as far as the tiny homes go.
7 domes.
If people are having visitors, I think because of the square footage, which is, this is another question you guys asked, and I have the answer for it. 500 square feet is the maximum. I went over this with Jim.
500 square feet for the structure.
For the actual structures, for the 17 RVs, 500 feet is the maximum. We went over this in detail, great detail. I said this is one of the things that they wanted to pin me down on, and I really need to be able to give them an answer. It's not going to change. It's 500 feet or under, okay? Not 500 feet or over, it's 500 feet or under, okay? To follow up with what I was going to say to you about the bathhouses is, in my opinion, the people that are going to rent the bathhouse, or the RV, if they have visitors, they have an option, because it is a tiny home. It is an RV. It's it's
Okay.
small.
Oh, we gotcha.
So if they want to use the public bathhouse, they can. It's there, and it's for the convenience of anybody that might be visiting. If that sounds reasonable, that's why they're there.
You said they're gonna have hookups for those?
For the 17 RVs, yes. Sewer hookup, electric hookup, and water hookup.
How can be handicap accessible?
Victoria,
Handicap
yes,
accessible.
yes. Is there going to be any venues that will be handicap accessible?
They have to be.
Every single one?
Yeah, that's,
Not everyone, but you have
no, you have to have some.
Okay.
Which would mean a ramp just getting
Okay.
into it.
And the lot,
will have to be handicapped.
That I know. No, we already talked about that. That's in the design. As far as the RVs go, if you tell me this percentage of the RVs have to be handicap accessible, they will be. We didn't address that till right now, but if you say that that's the requirement, that's the requirement.
Jim, you said these would plug into a stanchion nearby, correct? Are they gonna be like you'd see in a campground, like a 50 amp?
Yep, exactly.
Same thing, okay. So it's gonna be there's gonna be a cord,
Correct.
okay.
Just a 110 line, that's it?
I believe they're 50 amp
Yeah,
services.
they're usually 50 amp, I think they run,
And I believe it would be, in my opinion, after having done this for 35 years in different applications, it would be a weather box. You'd pull up
they
the,
are.
okay, all right?
yeah.
And all that's gonna be Craig, because all that stuff is gonna be required. When the electrical end of it's done, and the 50 amp hookup is set up, it has to be done by national code. I don't expect everybody to know that, but I know that.
Well, it'll be inspected by the state anyway, in this state.
Of course.
Not by
Of,
Craig.
of course, and if I'm not mistaken, it is gonna be required to have a weather box, so that it doesn't,
Would it make sense to hardwire those?
no. Okay, go ahead.
How often do you think you're gonna move these things around?
Well, like I was saying, I think you're getting into that definition of RV and tiny home. If you hardwire them in, I think you are in a tiny home. I think if you do plugs, you're in a.
Oh, I'm just thinking
Oh,
about the
does that make the
durability,
difference
you know,
between a tiny
Part
home?
of it, that's part
you
of
know,
it, yes.
over time, those things are gonna degrade.
Yeah, he may switch
you
them
know.
out too. I don't know if he's gonna do more of these campgrounds somewhere else.
Yeah.
And maybe he wants to switch some venues out over time or just rotate them based on rental priorities or precedents.
This is just a curiosity question on my part. Will you provide the linens and towels, or will people, when they come to these structures, be expected to bring their own
No,
bedding and?
no, everything will be supplied.
Okay.
everything
So
will
that
be-
means you need a cleaning service then?
Yeah, the same people managing will be required to clean them, just the way it's, this mobile home on the chick farm right now is like a test run for me, and it's going quite well.
Okay.
What are
Okay.
your dates for this being open and closed? I mean, like, once it's done, will you be running it from what month to what month?
Okay, I believe that is run by the state. I haven't got that application completed yet, but I believe they dictate what your opening date can be and what your closing date can be. That's not gonna be up to me.
Really?
Yep. they're gonna tell you that you're able to open from, let's say hypothetically, and I will find this out, I'm not trying to get around this. If they say you can open from May 1st to September 29th or whatever, September, I don't know. But whatever they tell you you can be open because it is a seasonal campsite, that's what I'm gonna have to adhere to. I know that for a fact.
Is it a state issue?
Why do they have to say when you open?
Because it's run by the state. I have to do the state application with them, and once you're registered as a state campground, they're gonna dictate when you can open and when you have to close.
I think what they do is they give you a window that you can operate within, because obviously they don't want these open in the wintertime. Though I do know some facilities are winterized, but obviously these are not winterized. So I think you have an option of time between like May and October to operate your campground.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will there be a heat pump or AC and heat?
Yes.
Are they gonna get hotter and blazes?
No, that's another thing
And the
that you
same thing
guys,
on the shoulder months will be cold.
that's another thing that you guys asked before. I spoke with Jim about
Getting
it.
into a house, when you go camping, for God's sakes, do you expect
When you
all
rent a cabin, you
all
do.
the primary things you have at home?
You do.
I'm still getting old.
When you go, a lot of these campgrounds, even when you bring your own rig, they'll have half dozen of these, and that's exactly what they are. They got the kitchen, they got the thing, and they have a source of heat and a source of AC.
Every RV / whatever you want to call it will have all the amenities. If it's a 45-degree night in, the middle of May, you're going to have, what it's going to be is going to be a split system, okay? You're going to have a clicker, you're going to set your AC, you're going to go down to the beach, you're going to come back, it's going to be comfortable. Or you see it's getting to be, you're out at the fire and it's going to be getting cool, you go in, you said 68, 70, 72, whatever. When you go back in, you're comfortable. That's what each one of the RV venues are going to have.
So it's glamping.
It is, and I'll be
That's
honest.
what it is
Yeah.
these days.
I don't know why. Tell me why you're doing that. I'm interested to know. Tell me why you're shaking your head. 'Cause-
I just find it curious, that's all.
Well, I will tell
And
you.
I don't care.
Okay.
I just find that in my earlier days, when I
Yep.
camped, we camped.
I'm going
we
to tell you.
didn't have-
My opinion, if I'm going camping, what happens where you're camping stays where you're camping. I'm old school. But what has happened over the last 25, 30 years to people, especially in the last 10 years because of COVID, people have gotten soft.
I know.
Okay?
Okay. Yep, well, we
And
understand.
I'm not going to go against the grain. I'm
Yep.
going to give people what they want.
We
okay?
understand. Yeah.
Joyce, my
Yes.
daughter and son-in-law are going camping, they bought a $68,000 camper.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
I know, okay.
I used to sleep in
I
a
know.
tent, now I don't.
I know, okay. Oh, the other question I have, are pets allowed?
Yes, pets are going to be allowed.
Okay.
And I'm going to challenge you, Robert.
And there's going to be someone that will have to have a pooper scooper that's going to be cleaning up after them. That should, I
So that's
assume
going to be
there
one
will
of
be
the,
rules.
it's going to be one of the camping rules. I've already
Yeah,
covered it in my
rules
mind.
posted.
Anybody walking an animal has to have
Yeah.
their, just like
And be
now,
on
out
a
in
leash.
public, it's the same thing.
Pets will be on a leash and,
All that, yes. I'm gonna challenge you, Robert, if I'm able to get the dome set up, I'm gonna challenge you to come check it out because it is officially a tent. It's a canvas site. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, I have seen those, and they are nice. They're very nice.
If
Yeah.
you can set the window at a nice view, I think you're gonna maybe change your mind.
What is this?
The domes, the geodesic domes, I'm a huge fan. That's what kind of got me interested in this to begin with, believe it or not. I was equally fascinated with the domes as I was at tiny homes, but more so the domes because it's a little bit more primitive. Yeah, it's less.
I've seen both, and when we're traveling out of state,
Yeah.
something, we'll stay in one of those, and they're fine.
I provided it, but I can do that. I can send it to Craig on
Yes.
his cell phone, and he can forward it to you. Is that okay? Okay. I'd like to do that because I send them to everybody. I'm in love with the domes.
okay. All right. Are there any other questions from
Yes.
board members?
I think
Yes.
we're
Go
getting-
ahead,
Pete,
Victoria.
I'm gonna- Pete-
Well, no, I'm Victoria, ladies first.
I'm just wondering if you're going to have signage around for speed limits, speed bumps for the pets, what's allowed with pets and not allowed. Alcohol, you want signage in different places. You most likely want it in more than one place. Will you be doing that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's all proactive. You want people going slow, you're putting in speed bumps.
Yeah.
You want people going slow, you've got you know, 10 miles an hour, whatever. You don't want
Could be even a
people,
copy of rules and regulations, everybody gets a copy when they rent or something
yeah,
like that.
that's, you know, SOP, I believe, but, yes.
I can't say I've ever seen I've never seen a
Oh, hold
campground
on.
in Maine that has.
Hold on,
Oh,
Pete
go ahead.
has
I'm sorry,
questions.
Pete.
Is it all right if I call you Ray?
Of course, Pete.
Thank you. Now, you showed us several drawings and this pictures of these units.
They were just samples. They were just samples.
They were
The-
samples.
The pictures, they're just something I pulled off the internet because Grace had asked me previously, about a year ago, and then now, could we see some examples? I said, absolutely. They are just pulled off as samples of what could potentially, you know, be pulled in. But here's the thing that I'm very comfortable with. If you guys are going to give me a requirement that any venue that's going to be going on that property, you guys would like to have be supplied that and approve it, that's fine. I think you guys are going to be surprised.
What I was getting at is, which,
Wait.
are they all gonna be the same style?
No, definitely not.
So each pad's gonna be set up to represent that particular style that's gonna go out.
A certain theme, I hope. Yeah, a certain theme. Yeah.
And now, you're planning on buying 17 flatbeds for each one?
17 flatbeds.
They'll come on a chassis.
They come on a chassis.
They come on a chassis.
Is the chassis removable from underneath?
No.
Okay, so now you're gonna get stuff into a structural slab. Because of the bearing points.
What's that?
That's all
Say that
right.
one
That's
again.
all right. I'm listening, Pete. I'm listening.
Well, they didn't get, what did
I
you
didn't
get?
understand it.
I'm just going to say this, Pete. If somebody was going to pull their camper, if somebody was going to pull their RV in a campground, and they're going to take advantage of the sewer hookup and the power hookup and everything like that, they're going to stay a month, they're going to stay 3 months, they're going to stay 6 months, depending on how long they're going to pay, right? And then when they're done, they're going to hook their camper up to their fifth wheel or their tongue, and they're going to leave. As far as pressure points and as far as structural, I don't believe that comes into this at all in any way, but I'm willing to listen.
Because you can't leave it mounted on the tires. You're gonna have to put it on hard supports, because it's gonna stay there. And eventually, we know what happens to tires. When you
Okay,
changes in
That's
temperature,
not,
they all
that's his problem.
they deflate.
okay.
You need the bearing points in order to keep that structure.
Address this, or do you want me to? I can, go ahead, okay.
I was just going to say, I imagine, you want to say something else?
Yes, the RVs have levelers, but when I'm looking at, this thing's gonna be heavier than an RV.
Okay,
Plus for the snow load on top of that.
what I want to say to you, Pete, is this is, I am positive that the venues that I would want to bring in would have all those facets to them, just like an RV would. I'm absolutely positive of that. And I also know that I will be putting a skirt of some sort around the outside of the RV/tiny home so that weather's not getting to the actual wheels themselves. I'm not concerned with that at all. I'm not. But if it continues to be a concern of yours, I want to address it more, okay?
Because even an RV, you need the supports, otherwise it kind of,
Okay.
so it can't stay on rubber. You gotta support it.
I guess his point being that
Okay.
the tires could deflate
Okay.
at different rates.
I am positive anything that's 10 by 40 or 10 by 50, 400 or 500 square feet, is going to have leveling points on it. I'm positive because I know enough about it to know that you want them level. And so you're going to have leveling points. And I believe that's going to take the pressure off the rubber, and then, go ahead.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Craig had his hand up.
So last time you said you was gonna put them all on a slab, is that still true today?
As far as a concrete slab, when I said slab, I meant pad site, slab site.
So it's
Yeah, that was my question, is what is the surface going to be? Is it going to be a gravel, similar to what, okay.
No.
And if you skirt it, you're gonna pretty much eliminate the UV degradation of those wheels.
Thank you.
And you know, if one flattens, buy a new tire. You flatten a tire, go buy another one. I mean, it's not that,
I don't think we have any say over that. I mean,
I don't either. I don't think it's an issue, is what I'm
if we
saying.
opened this up people bring in their RV trailers, it's up to them to
Right.
keep them level,
Yeah.
it's up to him to keep that one level,
Yeah.
to get into that.
All right,
I don't
no,
know
I-
if we have anything to say about what they look like. If he had a trailer park, I mean, a trailer RVs, whatever they look like, they come in, they all look different.
It's true. The reason I was adamant about wanting to know what you went in there is that, you know, as recently as 2 weeks ago, we had no plumbing at all, and now.
I think he's more
The red flag
defined.
started to fly. That, you know, I'm feeling better about this as we go. But I think it is important to have a decent idea as to what's gonna go in there. And as far as the tires and the leveling, those things are gonna come
You're
along.
gonna have to do all the infrastructure in order
Right.
to start this, so you can take a look at the infrastructure, and if it's a lick in the promise, we know what the rest of it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So
So so basically, you're gonna know which style of structure you're gonna put there, because not all the bathrooms gonna line up with every one of them.
I'm sorry, Pete. I'm sorry.
So,
I didn't catch that.
Drain pipe for the bathroom.
Right, where the water feeds are and everything else.
Be in a different spot.
That's all gonna be layout. That's all gonna be, you know,
That's up to Craig too.
So does Craig have to know what style of house is gonna,
I don't think
unit's gonna go there?
yeah, he just has to know how they're gonna be hooked up.
Up in the ground there, but wherever the pipe is, you can move that pipe around and still get hit.
well, you plumb it right to your,
Coming up out of the ground.
So you don't care what style
No,
the structure is there?
no, no.
Not really.
No.
Not for a unit. I mean, yeah, I wanna know if I need a plan on what he's gonna have.
Like whether it's gonna be 400 square feet or 500 square feet, but not necessarily the design, the outward design of
I
it, whether
told-
it's gonna be all glass.
I totally understand that the square footage is a big concern.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why I brought up the fact that it has to be 500 square feet or less.
That's how this was gonna come.
Yeah,
Nope.
that's what
That
we
was
had
my
thought
question.
before, yeah,
That's what mine was last time.
yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
Just one,
go ahead.
the diagram will need, I think it will need to include where the handicap RVs will be and also where the speed bumps are. Does that need to be included ahead of time on the diagram? Does it, you need to
Do
upgrade
we need
that?
to know on that diagram
Yes.
which of the units will be handicap?
Yeah,
why would
I
we
don't
have-
know.
Why would we have a speed bump?
Yeah.
well, we talked about,
He's gotta regulate
because he was
speed.
worried last time about, people coming in with their cars, and I said, well, there are many campgrounds that have speed bumps and things like that, so I didn't know if that was something that had to be included or not. So that's what I'm saying is, do we need to upgrade that to include those things
It's
or
up to
not?
him to control the speed.
I personally have never seen a speed bump in a
what we would-
campground, but
just
I
a
have
speed
seen
limit.
maximum speed limit 10
Right.
miles an hour. It's really slow.
Yeah, I
Right.
think there's just gonna have to be a ton of, not a ton, but there'll have to be some adequate signage throughout, talking about speed limit.
Right.
And I think you've got some bathhouses, you can post the rules on the bathhouses of hours of operation, noise, all those types
Do
of,
a lot of signage.
yes. And I think you'd have it up in the parking lot, you might have it when you first come in, so it's posted everywhere so everybody knows.
Pamphlet in each building.
I think that, to answer Victoria's questions, that is there a formula that states how many handicap places have to be per whatever?
Oh, I'm sure there is, but I don't have it right on me.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'm aware
it
of what
would
it
be,
must state.
it would be appropriate then when you figure out,
Space, like 1 for 25 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
They would be up in the parking lot, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be on the sites.
well, no, have a,
It would have to be
Yeah.
ADA,
yeah,
ADA accessible.
you'd have to have the handicap bathroom in them and everything. Yeah. So let's say that if, when you determine, according to state regulations, how many handicap units you need, that you would indicate on the plan which of those units will be handicapped.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that we could do that even now, we could just pinpoint one location that's,
Yeah,
meets the handicap, but we just
Yeah.
wanna make sure the number is correct.
Probably the closest.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, all right. Any other questions?
I just want to say one other
Yep,
thing to that.
sure.
If the state requires 1 in 25, I would gladly do 2 in 25. So if by chance,
Well, that's up to your decision. All we require is what the state
Okay,
requires.
I understand.
That's up to you.
Yeah, I don't think you need to overkill it. But if you had, one unit out of that group and make sure that you've got 4-foot door in your bathhouse and at least one of your
Sure.
stalls with a wide door, I think you're gonna be all right.
All right, Pete, you had another question?
There's handicap and there's handicap.
Okay.
This thing is gonna be at least 2.5 to 3 feet off the ground, floor level, right? Floor.
Each RV, yes.
Okay,
That's reasonable, yeah, to think that,
all
yeah.
right. Person is on a walker,
They'd need a
probably have
ramp.
to
That's
stand
what your
there.
ramp's for.
But if you've got a wheelchair,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
No, it's
So-
gonna, ramp.
So when you're saying handicap accessible, you have to specify
Yeah. He
whether
was,
it's wheelchair or,
It's gonna be it's gonna be wheelchair, and there's a certain, state guideline, how much pitch there is per foot. And I'm very familiar, because I used to have to, not have to, I used to cater to that clientele as a landlord, because that's the clientele I wanted. So I've had to build them before.
okay.
Okay.
Any
And
other
had them,
questions?
and have to have them inspected as well.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so it's going to be my suggestion that we take all of this under advisement. I would ask the planning board members to send me lists of their concerns and conditions. We're going to have to change the notice of decision, because the notice of decision talked about this all being tents. So we will have to, I don't know that there's a need to hold another public hearing, in that it's just the structure that's changing, not basically the design layout. So on the 16th, when we meet, if you guys could have to me what other additional comments you feel should be in the notice of decision, then we would vote on that when we meet on the 16th.
Okay.
And then you can move forward.
All right,
after
thank you,
that.
Joyce.
Okay?
Yeah, everybody on the board, thank you.
Okay,
I'd like to bring one other thing up, if I can.
sure. Back at the mic.
The people that are managing the Airbnb, at the chick,
You refer to the, is that the
mobile
camper
home.
that you're calling
The
an
mobile home.
Airbnb? It's-
mobile home, yeah.
On the chick farm.
Yeah.
We bought there, that-
Yeah, I know what you
Yep.
mean, yeah.
The, Misty and Luke brought this to my attention, that the Tiedemann farm,
That's what, where they're living is the
yeah,
Tiedemann farm.
is the Sun Up Farm.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna call it the Sun Up Campground. You guys had asked me a couple times if I had a name. This is crazy. Everybody under the sun has suggested all these things, and I've never bit on anything that anybody was saying, and I also never came up with anything on my own, which is something that I've thought a lot about, because nothing really hit me or touched me the way I wanted it to. As soon as I seen this sign that she showed me over the weekend,
That makes
once
all
we got
sorts of
past all the other stuff, the mood lightened, and she said, "I want to show you something." And I said, "Well, guess what?" And they said, "What?" I said, "That's the name of the campground." I said, "Oh my God, I never thought of it." So that's it. We're going to try to go back, try to bring a little history into it, which is what I'm all about.
Okay.
Okay, so, all
Sounds good.
right, thank you.
So you do not have to be here on the 16th if you don't want to be.
I'm going to be Joyce.
Okay.
I've,
Whether we're going to, take
Joyce.
any comments. or-
Joyce, do you really think I'm not going to be here?
I'm just warning you, we may not let you talk.
I've climbed the mountain.
When do you plan on getting started with this?
It all depends on how the 16th goes. That's reasonable, right?
I'm assuming the 16th says go. Then what?
Provided the 16th says go, I'm going to have to start calling around the contractors and see what their availability is to start putting the infrastructure in place. I haven't made those phone calls because everybody wants to know when you try to talk to them, have you gotten your approvals yet?
Yeah.
And so
You
that's,
don't plan on telling us then when you're gonna start it?
Well, he said it depends upon whether we approve it on.
you think the
16th
worst
and
of
what
me,
we approve.
Daryl. You always think the worst of me.
Well,
I can't give...
I want a straight answer, you never give any.
I'm going to give you, okay, so I'm going to tell you this, the same thing I just said. Depending on how the 16th goes, I'm going to get on the phone with contractors and find out what their availability is, because anybody I've spoke to always says the same thing throughout the past 30-some years. Have you got all your approvals yet? They don't want to talk to you unless you do, because why would we pencil you in when you don't even have your approvals? I don't think that's me skirting around. I'll tell you, I promise you, you'll be the first person I notify when we're going to start, as soon as I find out when we're going to start. Is that
Sounds good.
reasonable?
Sounds good.
Well, obviously you have talk to anybody about doing it, until after you're approved, right?
Yeah.
Because that's,
You don't know whether anybody's available or not.
exactly. That would be called putting the cart before the horse.
If I was gonna build it, I'd be talking with a contractor who would been doing the site work, whether I had the approval or not. So that's what I was trying to find. You and I would do jobs different, I guess.
All right, okay.
Well, we know that you're going to be contacting people. We don't need to get into an exact.
If I could just add one comment. If I had went Daryl's route, I probably would have had to tell the contractor now, possibly, a half a dozen times, and I'll leave it at that. And I didn't want to do that to somebody, because that's not a good way of doing business.
Yep.
I want to make sure I got my approvals, all my ducks in a row. Now it's time to ask somebody.
That's not what I meant.
Okay.
Whether it gets started or not is irrelevant. I would have one already lined up if I was serious
Yeah.
about doing this, is what I'm saying.
How can you have somebody lined up if you don't know when you can start?
You know, this is irrelevant to us, so thank you for coming in. Yeah, well, I know, but it is
But it's
to...
his problem.
It's his problem. He's got to,
Still not irrelevant to me.
well,
I don't,
okay, then I apologize for calling it irrelevant, but it's up to him to determine when he's going to start it.
I want to know if they've got something lined up. You make a big deal out of a small house, which I think is a total waste of time. But if I say something I want to know, it's irrelevant.
No, I said I apologize for using
I
that
can tell you
term.
something else too. I'm not sitting here through another meeting unless I can hear, and I can't hear nothing that's going on.
You can't
So
hear
they
from
either
there?
can fix this stuff up or I'm done.
Yeah, that's a town problem. I don't know how to
No,
answer
I
that
don't know how to
one.
tell you
Yeah.
because I'm not sitting for another one.
Yeah.
I can't hear it.
You know,
The speakers didn't work.
I can't even hear
Then
you unless
who's,
you're looking at me.
whose responsibility is it to fix this?
Well, I
Well,
wouldn't be
I mean, I would
back.
assume it's the selectmen's responsibility, right? I mean, it's the building,
you would think it's their building, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I will certainly,
Did you hear that, Jason?
Joyce,
what,
is it different here? Because I can hear you. Maybe, Daryl, if you switch seats with me,
Anything beyond.
if you want to try switching
it's different,
seats,
it makes it, no, they
because
need,
I can hear it just fine.
Yeah, because she's looking at you.
No, even when she's not, I can hear it. So I don't know if that's because I'm down here. I didn't know if there was a difference. Wait,
First of all, I should be able to hear her over this.
yeah,
right,
yeah, that's the problem.
okay, I wanted to offer a switch if that would
Yeah.
help.
Beyond George.
You very well.
Yeah. All right, I think,
If I was over there, I'd be in the same boat.
So maybe it's different
I
down here.
absolutely would.
okay, I will get in touch with the select board and see what can be done about getting that fixed. We're the board that has the most public attendance, I believe, as far as particularly having to hold public hearings, and it makes it very difficult. And, none of us are getting any younger. Our hearing isn't what it used to be.
I'm glad you said that.
And it's only appropriate that everybody can hear what everybody's saying. So, is there a motion to adjourn unless there's something else?
I make a motion.
Bob made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Victoria seconded. All in favor? Okay.